This is our oral history for History of Milwaukee. My name is Andrew Gusho.
Joe Roy.
And Ty Stazak.
Al Reimer.
And this is our oral history.
Okay, I'm ready.
Mr. Reimer, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. A little excited, but
As you should be. So we are going to start out with some questions about your childhood. So you said that well, first of all, what was the date of your birth?
12/1/26.
And where were you born?
I was born here in Milwaukee. Deaconess Hospital, which has been torn down.
Okay. And where was your first place of residency? Like, where was your first house?
2316 South Lenox, Lincoln and Lenox, Bayview.
Bayview.
I lived there until I went to the service.
Did you have any siblings? Or do you have any siblings?
I have a brother.
Okay. And what is your brother's name?
My brother is Russell is his name.
Okay. So what were some of the things that you liked to do growing up? Like any sports, hobbies?
Well, I think most sports you got into. Baseball was the most popular. Ice skating. Nothing much else. Ice skating because we lived a half block from a playground at that time, and it was easy to go there.
Were you on a baseball team?
Yes, I was on we played hardball. We didn't play softball. We played hardball out of Lewis Field. At that time, we called it Pryor Avenue. And we happened to be the Southside Division champions. And played in Orchard Field at the championship.
And what position did you play?
I was an outfielder. I was left field.
Did you follow the Milwaukee Braves?
Oh, a little bit. I got more interest in football later on. Like today, I enjoy football more than baseball. Just that I don't know why, but I do.
So growing up, did you have any favorite baseball players or anything of the sorts?
No, not. Oh, of course, some of the popular ones at the time, but I didn't have anybody that I admired. No, that I followed. Ted Williams or any name like that. But in fact, I tried to research my name, the name of the team I was on. I believe it was Lester Bell. I think his name was Lester Bell, and that had been a Brewer player way back in the 20s, and for what reason they gave that name to us, we took that name. Each playground that had a team took a name, and that was our team's name.
So for the, do you know Lou Perini, the first, or the owner of the Braves who brought over the Braves from Boston?
Mm-hmm.
Do you, what were your thoughts on that when he brought the team over from Boston?
Well, we were pretty happy about that because we wanted to be professional. Brewers was I think it was called an association game. It wasn't association league. We were not in a true professional. That was the first time we became professionals. Had a professional team out of Milwaukee, which was nice.
Were you sad when they moved to Atlanta?
We said nasty words about it too. We didn't like it one bit. Didn't like Atlanta. Took me a long time before I went through Atlanta, before I liked Atlanta. But every time I went through Atlanta, I always thought of it. They took our team away. Actually, I think it was Coca-Cola that took it away, not Atlanta.
Did you ever go to any Braves games at County Stadium?
A few. Over the years, a few, yeah. There was a few there that I enjoyed. Billy Bruton. In fact, and some of the, and I can't think of their names right now, but as you get older, you don't remember names anymore. But there was a few times we went, but it's not the same as it used to be.
Have you been to Miller Park?
Yes, I've been at Miller Park.
Do you like Miller Park or County Stadium?
Oh, I think it's very nice, very nice, very good. I was disappointed when they moved the football game out of Miller Park and put it in Green Bay, but it worked out well for everybody. But we're not enthusiastic about going to ball games anymore. It's too far a walk to go from the car to the stadium.
It's also a lot of money too.
And it's costly, yes, it is.
So what were some of the differences that you saw in County Stadium to Miller Park? Like, were there what was like some of the significant things that you remembered about County Stadium?
Oh, gee, what did I remember about County Stadium? Well, I remember the football games. That I think was the best part of it, I can't really recall but I liked the new stadium better because it had a roof on it. Everything was. We're playing inside all the time. It's a professional team.
And you said that you went to the Green Bay Packers game when they played at County Stadium?
A few times, yes. I used to go. I had tickets, I think, 2 or 3 years at the County Stadium for the Packers, and then about 20 years in Green Bay for the Packers. Packers were always my favorite. As you get older, I don't know for what reason, but I liked football rather than baseball. It just became and I think that's the general public today, liking football better than baseball.
I think that's because baseball's slower than football. Football is a more faster pace.
Well, I think we all like that slam bam type of tackling. Well, when I started out, it was with what was number 5? There was a fellow by the name of number 5. That was oh boy, I can see that blonde guy. What? And then there was 45 and 15, of course. And I was a little disappointed with 15 later on in life as he became a coach. But in his defense, I remember one time seeing Esther Hutton on radio talking about the fact that interviewing him, and he was talking about his coaching time. And he said he was never trained as a coach. He never knew to be a coach. And that kind of made me feel a lot better because Bart Starr did not do a good job as coaching. Everything else he did was pretty good. But I happened to be at the football game in 1967 when it was very cold. My son and I happened to get in the southeast corner of the stadium, and that's where all the action took place, and that's where Starr went across, and we became champions that day. I remember it was New Year's Eve day. I remember that because it was colder than the dickens, and had to drive home after you're so darn cold. But the nice thing, this past winter I happened to get a picture of exactly where we were positioned in the stadium, sitting, and the picture of Stars going across, taking it in for the championship win. Gave it to my son, and his son said to him, "Were you really there, Dad?" And he says, "I was there with Grandpa, with being me." So that was kind of a treat. And then I bought tickets for Green Bay, and I think about 20 years I had tickets up in Green Bay. I went through some of the bad years when they had guys that weren't very good coaches, but it was still fun to be there.
They're doing well now, though, Packers. Packers are doing well now, though.
Oh, they're doing pretty well. I think so, yes. Well, when I married my wife, she was kind of a football enthusiast, and consequently she learned to like the Packers very much. And of course, a guy by the name of number 4, he took on a lot of popularity with us. In fact, we're thinking about moving now, and I found a bunch of papers down there from 1997 that I had saved on the on football, and I was just looking through part of the paper and saying, "Oh my golly, I remember these things." But nice to save some of those things.
Bring back memories.
Bring back good memories. Good memories.
So, do any of these names, I'm sure some of these will, do any of these names ring a bell to you? From the Braves, we have Henry Hank Aaron.
Oh, yes.
We have Eddie Matthews.
Oh, yes.
Warren Spahn.
Yes.
And Lou Berdetti.
Oh, yes. Lou Burdett. Oh, yes. Lou Burdett, I think, was my favorite.
And is there a reason why he was your favorite?
Well, I think he had a hitless period in baseball. He was a good pitcher, excellent pitcher. But some of those things all start to fade as you get older. You know, it's just I remember a few names and remember liking them, but it's not. But I still think football is about the best, though.
So, what was the first school that you attended? Maybe grade school or...
Well, it was a neighborhood school. It's called Mound Street School, about 5 blocks away. I mean, during that time, we didn't know about school buses. Everybody walked. So I walked to school. And subsequently, when I graduated from that school, I went to Bayview High School, which we walked to that school. There were no school buses those days. Everybody walked, or they got a token. If they lived far enough away, they got a token to take the streetcar. But
and it was pretty common for all the kids in the neighborhood to go to the neighborhood school, obviously, because it was nice and close.
as far as I knew, yes, there was a couple of them that went to parochial schools, but otherwise they always went to the neighborhood school. Sure.
And did you have any favorite classes or anything that you learned in that school, the neighborhood school, that you continue to do or learn from this day?
No, not nothing that I remember. Nothing special. I remember we used to play a lot of soccer, and it wasn't soccer. It was actually kickover. We'd play a kickover a goal. They called it soccer. We never hit the ball with our head or body. It was always with our feet. So, but that was a new game that came out at that time. And the other game that a lot of us played in grade school was tops, T-O-P-S. You'd have a string and you'd wind the top and you'd throw it down, and it was rather popular for a couple of years there. And you would try to strike the other top that was on the ground spinning, and you'd try to get on top with your topper and spike it. It was I've never heard anybody talk about playing tops, but it was just a V shape, or not oval shape, but V shape item, and you'd wind it up with a string, and you just hold on to the string and throw them down. Of course, I guess it took a little. I wonder if I could do it today.
Did you ever participate in the hobby of trading baseball cards?
No, I never did. I never got involved in that. Never had a few in my pocket all the time that we got, because we'd pick a few up here and there, but otherwise we never became popular with baseball cards. And I don't know anybody in my group that did either. And that's why. If somebody else doesn't become popular with it, you don't follow it either. But, all right.
So what was your neighborhood like? You talked about not only having the school in your neighborhood, but were you and your neighbors pretty close with each other because you would see them?
Oh, they're all, when you live in Milwaukee, I haven't lived in Milwaukee since, oh boy, a long time ago. But the lots are rather small, so you're on a 32 or 35, 36 foot lot. So houses are close together. I lived in a block that there were about 10 homes in that block that did not have a garage. So we didn't have a garage. At first, I remember getting a garage in 1936. We had a garage put on because we lived adjacent to an alley. But some of the people these 10 people that I'm referring to, they lived adjacent to an alley, but there was no room on the lot to build a garage. So there was 10 homes in a neighborhood. I don't think you can go back in that same neighborhood and find a few less homes today, but not the same.
So what were some of the houses like? Do you remember the style of any of them? Do you remember what your house was?
Oh yes, I remember the style. Ours was called a bungalow. My dad and mother had bought a bungalow, and there was a couple others in the same block that were similar to that style, but the rest of them were just homes that had been built prior. Most people at that time used to walk to their work, so they would be relatively close to where they worked. I wasn't aware of that at the time because my dad always took a bus wherever he went because we didn't have a car either. So.
And if I may ask, in your house, we actually learned about bungalows. And was it common, or did they have a fake fireplace that would?
Oh no! Well, no fireplace. No. Just nothing. No, just the only thing they have in those homes was one window that had a stained glass window. I remember having that up a high stained glass window, and then they'd have a china closets in there, and that was all they'd have in the homes. Well, when you had a refrigerator, you didn't have a refrigerator, you had an icebox. And I remember my dad drilled a hole for the icebox, and so the water would go right down into the basement and go to the floor, into the basement drain. So things are a whole lot different. Everybody's got a car, everybody's got a garage, everybody's got refrigeration, electrical appliances. It was most of my life as a kid was in the Depression. You didn't have easy things.
Yeah. So where did either of your parents work? If I know your
What's
father
that?
worked. Where did your father work?
My father worked for International Harvester, 16th and Bruce. That was a popular place to get a job at that time because they making tractors for all kinds of countries. Later on, when I got a little bit older and I could get away from the house, I realized that the tractors were being built for Russia and other countries besides Germany. We did a big job in tractors in Milwaukee.
And do you know how long throughout the day he would be gone for his work?
Well, they started my dad started at 7 o'clock in the morning until 3:30. That was the normal working day, much like it is today. And consequently, he would take about 45 minutes, short hour, to get home from where he worked at International Harvester to get home. And then we'd have dinner, and it was just a regular routine day.
And so it says that here he was an ex-farmer. Where was he a farmer?
Well, prior to coming to Milwaukee, prior to my birth, as a youngster, he was a farmer. My mother was a farmer, as my grandparents were. We'd go to their homes, home on the farm. That was nice.
Yeah. So how was it growing up in the Great Depression? Like, what was the food that you had to ration and the clothes that you had to wear? Can you go into depth about that?
Well, everything was rationed, I suppose you'd say that. But You know, you didn't have it. Nobody else had anything. So what you had, you appreciated. You try to take care of it. I know when I'd go to church, I'd wear a different. As soon as I'd come home, you'd change your clothes and put on your clothes that you didn't wear to church. So you always meant to go to church looking nice. And other kids had about the same problem. My dad was not fortunate or unfortunate. He did not get any county aid, and consequently we watched what we were doing, watched our nickels and dimes pretty closely.
What was some of the food that you had to ration? Or
Well, we didn't ration food. We just,
no?
I don't remember. I learned to eat a lot of vegetables, and to this day I enjoy vegetables. Consequently, I think it makes for better health. We never felt like we went without anything. I remember one morning though, I was home. It must have been the summertime. A man came to the door and asked my mother for a meal. And we didn't have anything, and she said, "We don't have much." And he said, "I'll take whatever you can get," or some words to that. And he came in and sat at the table, and he sat down, and my mother prepared, maybe we had cereal left over, or cooked cereal left over from our meal, and she offered him that, and he ate that and left. It was just a gentleman that came out on the train, because the trains were a few blocks away. A lot of switch trains went through there. But that was an interesting time. Somebody coming to the door and asking for a meal. So we didn't have it as bad as he did.
So hospitality was very important.
I would say yes. You knew everybody, and you knew every neighbor and every house. I lived here for 30 years. I don't know every neighbor on every block, on the entire block. But thereafter, as a kid, you do. You learn to know them all. We did learn to know everybody. But people are pretty much the same, but just you as an individual change somewhat.
So you talked about as a kid, did you have any places that you hung out at, any parks?
Well, baseball time would be down playing ball. Then 2 blocks away to the east of me was another area that we would play, pick up baseball or once in a while. But we used to play baseball a lot. That was the biggest thing. Then we'd go up to the playground the other direction, half a block away, and play at Linus Street Playground. It was interesting. And then at the end of summer, the Linus Street Playground had a festival, which they brought the mother and dads up, put bleachers out, had bleachers brought in, and parents saw what we did during the summertime playing on the playground, which I don't think is done anymore. I don't remember ever hearing of it. But our biggest interest was baseball. You played baseball all the time. And football became a little bit popular. I went out and played football. I enjoyed football when we played it. I think I liked the rough and tough part of it. But not that I was rough and tough, but you always think you're stronger than the rest. But football became more popular.
Did you have a job as a kid?
Well, I worked for the Journal from the time I was about 13 until I was 18. Yes, I started out as a paper boy. In those days, you'd buy your route. You'd buy it from somebody that was terminating his job, and you'd go there and you'd work. And so I lived on the northeast corner of this district, and I got a route on the southwest corner, which was a mile. When I got done, I had to walk home a mile each evening from my route. but didn't seem to kill me. It seemed to be. And then as a manager liked me enough, I guess, he asked me to be the station captain, so I was a station captain. I did that for a couple of years until I got out of high school, and that was the end of the Journal. However, I worked for the Journal when I was going to college, so it was they were really good to me. The Journal company was good employer. It treated me well.
Do you remember any significant stories that you may have reported or that were reported the time that you worked there?
Oh, in the paper?
Yes.
Well, during that time, Prohibition was going on. Part of that time. I think that came off in 33 or 34. And you'd hear about, you'd watch a neighbor across the street carrying stuff out of the house all the time. And then when they moved away and another family moved in that I played with, I found out that there was a tunnel between the house and the garage. And all the time they were taking out things such as ground or something in baskets that we couldn't tell because they had a cover over them. Prohibition was, I think it was 30, where it was all up. But no, I don't hear of anything. I know the one boy across the street, his name was the same as mine, his first name, and he drowned out at South Shore Park. Those are little things that happen in a neighborhood. Other than that, it was pretty quiet.
And speaking on the parks, what were they like back then? Do you remember during that?
Oh, the parks. Oh, the parks were beautiful. Boy, we used to go to Humboldt Park, South Shore Park, and Humboldt Park was, they had a beautiful pond or water lilies and different water plants, and the water was clean and nice. It was just a beautiful, everybody took care of it. No one left their trash around. It really, everybody had more respect for authority. They played baseball there. We watched the baseball games, and subsequently later on, there was a fellow by the name of Tony with his ponies, a fellow that had a beer depot, and he sponsored a football team, Tony with his ponies, and they played football on Sunday afternoon. Go over and watch them, and it was good. Baseball was held, and good football was had at Humboldt Park on Sunday afternoons.
So do you remember anything about Charles Whitnell? Actually, some of the designers, or the designer of some of these parks. Does that name ring a bell?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't ring a bell. I don't recall it.
So, did you have, other than baseball, did you have any other hobbies?
Ice skating, of course. You always enjoyed ice skating because that was the only hobby that was available in wintertime. Everybody had to have their ice skates. Boy, and then you got into a pair of hockeys, I think they call them box toe hockey. But it was fun.
And where would you go and play hockey and skate around?
At that neighborhood playground, Linus Street Playground, we played. And then once in a while we'd get down to Jones Island and play hockey down there in the willows or in the swamp. It was all small games in the neighborhood, just guys that you worked with, and we always went sled riding when the snow was available. That was always, we did that over at Humboldt Park. That was a popular spot.
Were you in Boy Scouts?
Well, I was in Scouts for a while, but everything cost money. So I think it was Troop 62 at Mount Street School. I belonged there about 2 years, and I just wasn't an interesting guy in scouting at that time. However, later on in life, when my son was born and became a scout, became a Boy Scout, I was pretty active with scouting for a long time. And consequently, he's almost got to be the top of the rank. What did Jeff got to be? First-class scout. And I remember going out to Camp Journal, which is no longer in existence, out on about 112th and North Avenue. But things are. And when I was one of the first in the neighborhood to get a bicycle, and that to me was that just made me not king, but it made me feel good that I was able to get around, and I did a lot of biking.
Do you remember the kind of bicycle?
Well, it wasn't a Schwinn. It was other than a Schwinn. I remember 522 East Lincoln Avenue is the shop number where I bought it, a modern bicycle shop. And I think it's now a restaurant. But can't remember anything more about it.
To go back to your childhood, you talked about a farm. Where was this farm?
Well, the farm was just west of Green Bay, about 20 miles, called Seymour, 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 Wisconsin. One set of grandparents lived there, and we enjoyed that spot immensely. And I did a lot of work up there besides. You don't realize farm boys do more work than the city boys by far.
What kind of work did you do?
Well, we always went up there cherry time. We picked cherries. We drove teams of horses. It wasn't that big a deal. I'd drive. They were haying, and the hired man would bring the tiller, and we'd bring the hay onto the wagon, and I would drive the wagon. And then when we got back to the farm, I would also drive the team of horses, loading the hay into the bins.
How much were you being paid?
Oh, you never got paid. Oh, you never thought. Money wasn't available. Nobody got it. Nobody had it, so it just didn't. I didn't think about it. When I went to the Navy, that was the first couple of years before that. When I was on a paper route, that was the first time I had any money. Otherwise, you never had money. Never, you just had good friends.
So where did you end up going to high school?
Went to Bayview High School for a science course out there, which prepares you for college if you're going to college. And good school. I had good teachers, and I enjoyed school. I really had no complaints. The only complaints we had was B.C. Korn. He was the principal. He was a jerk. And everybody you talk to this day that remembers high school when he was there feel the same way, similar to what I do. I remember one time I went to see him. I had lost hearing in one ear in a swimming pool in high school swimming. And consequently, I went to the doctor and I was going to have surgery during Easter vacation. So we planned it that way. And when Easter vacation came, the war was on. Consequently, they were not going to have any Easter vacation. So what happened that I had to take time off during the Easter vacation to have my surgery on my ear. And what happened is, when you take a day off prior to for exams you get exempt, and if you have a day off before or after certain days, you don't get exempt from your responsibility of taking a test. I kind of forget what the verbiage was, what we used, but I just don't recall.
What was your favorite subject in school?
I was in the science. They call it the science course. I liked everything except math. I liked no problems with any of it. I enjoyed school, really. I did. Had a very good. Never left. Never was absent. Very seldom absent, except of course the time when I had that surgery. Absent before a day of. But other than that.
Where did you go to college after high school?
Went to University of Wisconsin downtown on 6th and Wells, or 6th and State. Went there for a whole year, and then went on to college. And then went on to service. And then
What branch of the service were you in?
I selected a Navy Air Corps. I passed some tests, and I was granted a time in 2 years in the Navy Air Corps. Not as a pilot, because the pilots had more than they needed at that time. So I went in as a CAC, Combat Air Crewman, and it was met the nicest people I ever met in that division.
So you went in during World War II?
Yes.
Were you drafted?
No.
No.
Well, it's a combination. You had to be 18 to take this, and to go into this program, and you had to go and sign up with the draft. But I went in with the Navy. I was signed into the Navy, not by the draft board, but by the Navy. I was in the Navy before I was drafted. It was kind of a mix-up situation. I was thinking about it the other day. I couldn't figure out how it all happened, but on the 23rd of December of one year, I became sworn into the Navy, and then I think the 27th I went into the draft board to go through the system of going through the draft board, and the 2nd of January I left on a train.
Why did you choose the Navy? Did anything stand out to you?
Well, I really don't. I thought it was a little harder. I thought perhaps I could be a better person if I stayed with the Navy. Not that the Army is any worse or anything, but I like to be flying around the water. I always enjoyed the water. Subsequent later years, I stayed with the South Shore Yacht Club. Water sort of attracted me over the Army.
So, did you ever go to the beach? Did you ever do anything at the beach or go fishing in Lake Michigan?
Oh, we went, sure. My mother and dad and my brother and I, we'd walk down to go fishing at South Shore Yacht Club area, at South Shore, or Jones Island, which was a popular place. Jones Island was quite popular. And we'd fish and eat both places, catching a regular old perch.
So what was it like growing up in a city that had socialist mayors, like Fighting Dan and stuff like that? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I know very little of that. Later on in life you found out that they were socialists, and we had, everybody did their job and everybody was respectful of authority. I had no complaints with the way the system was running. You'd hear about this or you'd hear about that in a newspaper, but which we did not get every day. We got it from a neighbor because the neighbor would bring the paper over the day after they got it. and so you get the day after paper. But no one ever talked about politics very much. Not like today.
And what was it like growing up in a predominantly German city? Like, did you see a lot of aspects of the German culture?
I suppose you did. I saw our neighborhood being in Bayview. It seemed to be a mixed neighborhood of Italians, Czechoslovakians, Polish people, and Germans. They were all mixed. And everybody attended their church, and everybody respected what they did. It was I always, you went past a neighbor, you'd say good morning or good afternoon to him. It was always pleasant. I don't remember bad things in the neighborhood at all. I don't remember anybody. Until later in life, I found out someone stole my bike in the front. But other than that, those things happen in every neighborhood. But it was just a nice melting pot of mixed group of people.
How did you see Milwaukee grow over the years?
What was that?
How did you see Milwaukee grow over the years?
Well, as I mentioned the last time I talked with you, I saw the Illinois Steel Company. That company was really torn down and became part of the lakefront. Our Coast Guard is down there, and the Navy and Marine Corps. The roadway goes through, 794 goes through. I haven't found anything bad about Milwaukee. I found everything good, really and truly. I moved out to the suburb. I moved out to Glendale, and stayed out there for 45 years. But it was always a nice city. The blacks and the whites got along well together. I had no complaints, none whatsoever. I didn't find any.
Do you remember any of the first skyscrapers ever being built, or any new buildings?
Well, I lived in a suburb most of that time, and I didn't pay too much attention to what was going on in Milwaukee. So I just was concerned about my area. No, it wasn't. No.
Would you ever go downtown with your family or anything? Would you go to any of the shops or go look around?
Oh, yes. Christmas time, you'd always make sure you got down there and got Grand Ave, went down seeing that. Went to the museum quite often. Enjoyed, part of what was being offered. It was uneventful as far as I was concerned. We had no problems. You'd see the neighborhood would be the milkman would go down. You don't find a home today that's built with a milk chute. Every home today is without a milk chute. So consequently, everything has changed so much. I remember the first time Omar came on the street with his motorized vehicle to sell breads and pastries and whatever he did sell. And there were a lot of home vendors, Lambrechts and Omar and the milkman. There was a couple different milk companies. Lewick Milk was the most popular, and there was other milk companies besides Wilkie, but nothing. It's been so far back I can't remember back.
Do you remember any of the shops that were on Grand Avenue, or like any of the things that you would buy there?
Oh, sure. Adams hat shop, Flag shoe store, Gimbel's Boston store, the Plankin and Arcade.
Speaking of gimbals, does the name Gertie the Duck ring a bell?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when the duck, that was interesting. And everybody would always want to see her and those little ducklings there. They've done a nice job downtown now because that Riverwalk is, I think, ideal. Very nice. It's helped the industry down there, and it's helped people go down, bring people down there. The only problem with downtown now is parking. Hey, you go down there. I went down there one day, and it cost me $5 to park in a meter, and I was so disgusted. I said, I just don't. I don't find it comfortable to going downtown. Well, I don't need to shop anymore, so it doesn't make any difference.
When you were a child, did you ever go to the Third Ward and shop on Commerce Street?
No, never did. Third Ward was Italian district. That was later in life when I worked with a guy from the Third Ward. I remember meeting this Italian guy, and we talked about it. And I could see when Third Ward on the 16th of July, I believe it was, they always celebrated. And I could see from where we lived in Bayview, we could see the fireworks up. But other than that, that was all commission roll.
You talked about that you got around walking, you rode a bike, you walked, but do you remember your first car, your first automobile?
Yeah, 50 Chevy. Yeah, I remember it. Mr. Ruby. I bought it from Ruby Chevrolet. Yeah. When I was a paper boy, I met one of my customers took a very good liking to me, and as I got older, I went to a store and bought my furniture from him by coincidence. I did, and it was the same guy that took a liking to me, so our friendship grew, and when I needed a car, he said, I can get you one because you're gonna work for me in the insurance business, in furniture business. And consequently, I got the Chevy. I bought a Chevy at a nice price, and had that about 7 years. But I was never a bicycle. People took a streetcar. I was the biggest streetcar bus. They should have more buses downtown now instead of the hop.
Kind of bringing it back to like the sports side of things, would you ever go to games at the Milwaukee Arena or the Mecca?
I went to a couple basketball games, but not. I was never a sports enthusiast that way. No, I wasn't.
Do you remember the floor that was at the Mecca, the yellow? Yeah. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I thanked my neighbor for the tickets because we sat way up in the balcony, or not balcony, way up, and it seemed like heaven. But I never had any thoughts. I just didn't have that extra money. I didn't have the extra money to spend on baseball and football and all that at the time I was growing up.
So, in Milwaukee, do you remember any of the big breweries or other businesses?
What was that?
In Milwaukee, do you remember any of the big businesses or breweries that?
Oh, sure. Schlitz and Pabst and Blatz and Gettleman. Yeah. Oh, sure. Very well. They were the background of hiring a lot of people in Milwaukee. And consequently, Johnny Schmidt came out of, I think, a brewer. He was the president of the CIO. And I remember I followed a little bit of the Union later in life.
So Milwaukee had a lot of breweries. Did you have a favorite beer?
Did I have what?
Did you have a favorite beer? Type of beer?
Well, I think it was Pabst at the time. I remember having a fellow I worked with came over one time, and I had all Schlitz beer because a friend of mine was able to get it through Schlitz. So he said, I'm not drinking, he's a Pabst employee. He said, I'm not drinking Pabst beer, I'm drinking something else. So I was able to get a friend of Pabst and go through Pabst. And Pabst was my favorite beer, I think, in the long run.
Do you remember how big of a role some of the industry played in Milwaukee, such as companies like A.O. Smith, Chalmers, Harley Davidson, HP?
Well, A.O. Smith was really a good. That was, see, they hired people on the north side, A.O. Smith. Now, Alice Chalmers, I remember a little bit about them because they built tractors. And I took a tour one time through Alice Chalmers, and I was quite impressed with some of the machinery they had there. But this was after the war, so I was recognized things that I wouldn't have recognized as a youngster. But I worked for Alan Bradley for a few times. But they'd have economies would go up and down like that, and you'd work and then get laid off, and get laid off. I worked at a number of places. Alan Bradley was one of them. International Harvester was one. And you'd work there and then get laid off. So then you go back and then you get laid off again. But that was part of life in those days.
And during the war, could you feel that effect of the industrial boom? Kind of how we needed to get those products out there and being ready for war. Could you feel that?
I don't quite fully understand your question, but
like, could you see the effects of war being in Milwaukee with like the jobs that they needed and that they created?
Well, I worked in shipyards just before I went in the Navy. Fleming Shipyards in South First Street. That was all part just for the war. Down that street on South First Street in Lincoln was another company. I can't recall the name, but they added on, and there were turrets on the outside of the building. I imagine if that building were still there, they'd still have those turrets on the outside of the building on the corner, so they could look down Beecher Street or look down South First Street. I can't think of anything else, but I remember working for the shipyard. That was fun.
Do you remember either of the Zeidler brothers being mayor?
Who?
The Zeidlers, Frank or Carl Zeidler? No.
Well, one of the Zeidlers was one of my dad's second cousins, so I knew he was Carl got killed. He went off. I can't even think of the mayor's name now, but he was in office and nobody cared for him. He was socialism. He was sort of a socialist. And he didn't have the same philosophies apparently of Hone, but he had those tendencies. And Milwaukee still, the unions were a great deal close to that too. It's very socialistic. So, no, I don't remember too much of the Milwaukee politics.
Where did you see a great deal of unions back in the day?
Well, unions were very popular, and they'd be on strike, and they'd be newsworthy, and people people talked about the unions quite a bit, especially if they knew somebody that worked there. So and they get laid off, and then they, oh my God, you got a nickel raise or whatever it would be. It was pretty much history at that day.
Can you talk about Father Grappi?
Oh yes, I never knew Father Graffi, but he was just doing his job as he thought he was. But I always thought him as a troublemaker. He wanted to walk across the bridge and take the blacks on the south side, and you avoid issues like that. He came down one time downtown when I was there, and you just avoid the issue. You stay away from it, because if there's going to be trouble, you don't want to be part of it. You don't want to add to it, or you don't want to know anything about it. You avoid. As far as I was concerned, every time we go into Grappi's store, his mother and dad's store over here in Little Italy, Bayview, I said, gee, I never met him. He never played baseball. He never associated with anybody in my age limit. He might have, with his kids, I don't know. But
So, do you remember, kind of bringing it back to the cars and whatnot, do you remember any of the roads being built? Like any of the highways or anything like that, or just not really?
not really, no. A couple of them going up north maybe, but I know we used to always take Highway 55 going north, and then later on I never used that highway. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but not really. They did a good job on the stadium, on highway that's in existence now, on the county highways. I think they did a good job.
So during those times when they were putting up the roads, in our class we talked about how the roads would affect the communities that really didn't have a voice, and most of the time those communities would be the people who would have to leave their house so the roads could go up. Could you maybe talk about like the housing crisis and how it kind of started and what it was like back then as to what it was today?
No, unless you're involved in running for election or something, you don't pay any attention to a lot of that stuff. I did not.
Can you talk about Bronzeville? Do you remember Bronzeville?
Not really.
Do you remember any issues of white flight or blockbusting?
No, I don't.
So during your childhood, did you have any? Did you go to any places to eat? Did you have any favorite places to eat?
Well, of course, everybody. When you work for the Journal, they used to, if you got certain sales merits, they'd take you down to Mater's, take you to the Riverside Theater or to Warner Theater, which is being eliminated now. And that was maybe once a year that would happen through your employer. But, other than that, you lived a quiet life.
So after the war, you went into the insurance company?
Well, I went to school, and then I decided, I met some people that were in insurance work, and They said, "Well, you sound like you could be kind of interested in doing this type of work." So I got more interested in insurance, and yes, to your question.
Do you remember anything about the Eagles Club?
Eagles? Oh, sure. Yeah, they used to have good dance bands every Sunday night or every other Sunday night or Saturday night. They was good. The Eagles and then there was another place in Sixton, Wisconsin. What is that? Can't recall that. These are dance places. People would go to pay to get in and go and enjoy the music and the dance, and maybe they'd pick up a date, and maybe they wouldn't. They would take a bus and go home. Things are really quiet. At least I lived that quiet. We didn't. The guys I went with, we were a quiet bunch of guys. We never caused trouble. Never got. My whole life I've never been in a fight. You want to fight now, just for the heck of it?
I'm all right.
So I never fought. I just never did. No reason to.
Did you ever end up going to any of the dances at the Eagles Club? Like, do you remember any of the people who played there?
Well, Tex Beneke's band came there one night, and I went there. Because Tex Beneke was also stationed on in Oklahoma at our station, and it's just kind of nice to see somebody. And then I happened to know the guy that was a pianist for him, and Wagner. What was Art Wagner? I think it's. So it worked out kind of nice.
So you, as a child, you lived in a Milwaukee bungalow?
Yes.
Do you remember they called it a jerkin-head gable roof?
No, I don't recall that.
But your house had lots of woodwork and china cabinets, and it was really beautiful.
Yeah, it was a nice home. It wasn't that fancy a home, but it was a very nice home. It was a new home. It was brand new. My mother and dad bought it, and I lived there for 18 years. Came back from service, remained living there, and then I left there and went to the north side.
So could you tell us a little about the Eleanor Street or the Watchman? Does that ring a bell?
What was that?
The Eleanor Street, or
I don't recall anything.
the Watchman. If not, that's okay.
Do you remember the City Beautiful movement?
City. What was that?
The City Beautiful movement, purposeful city planning in contrast to overcrowded neighborhoods, and it was to make Milwaukee a nicer and cleaner city.
No, I don't remember that. I never. That's new to me. I remember a couple of years ago, though, I was driving 60th Street and I was crossing Hampton, and I was at the stop and go light, and there were two black boys on the curb, and they got done drinking their bottle of soda and they just threw it on, and I rolled the car window down and I said to them, "Hey, somebody's got to pick that up. Don't throw it there." That's as much as I can remember ever. Because you didn't do it yourself. You expect people that we were with. When I had a sailboat out here, I never. The guy I was with happened to be my attorney, and he threw his beer bottle into the lake. And I said, "What? I said, "Hey, I carry those back. don't do that. Oh, what's the difference? Well, we had a little argument, not argument, but a little discord thereafter. But
So how have you seen the lakefront change from back when you were a boy to now? Like, do you remember anything?
oh, the lake has improved 100%. You know, everything. Well, the not Illinois, but Northwestern Mutual train used to go through Bayview along near Rothwasher, and then it would cross. There'd be a bridge there, and then you go into Third Ward, and that Third Ward was really a nice depot, nice. And the beach changed. Well, when they tore down Illinois Steel Company, that whole complex, the whole lakefront changed. I'm surprised today when they talk about South Shore Yacht Club, the shore being restricted to swimming. We never had that problem. It's just the cold water.
And you said you went fishing sometimes with your father on Lake Michigan?
Oh yes, we'd go. You know, everybody lined. You had to look for a place to sit because everybody did the same thing. They were all fishing. Along South Shore Yacht Club to the north, there's a section where all the big rocks are. You'd have to look for a spot to get into because usually everybody was fishing. Or John Jones Island the same way. You'd have iron pilings, and you'd sit there and fish off of them, and it was always occupied by somebody at different spots.
So in the, I think 30s and 40s, television became. Did you
No.
ever have a television? Do you remember any of the TV shows?
Well, I think of some of the TV shows I can think of is Danny Thomas. I used to always like Danny Thomas. And I see him, his daughter brings his picture on TV every once in a while now, and he just was a good guy. He just good singer. Then, of course, I remember the guy with the sweater. What the heck is his name? Yeah,
I think I remember Mr. Rogers.
No, I didn't. That was after me. I didn't see Mr. Rogers. No. I don't remember. I can think of some. I can see their face now. The guy with the sweater, the singer. Oh boy, he's been a long time since he's been on. Most of them are all dead, of course.
Like going off of television, did you have any favorite bands or music growing up?
Not that I can remember. There's a couple that I always enjoyed. I can't remember them. I can't recall the names. You know, when you get to be my age, it's some things that just aren't there.
Other than brats and beer, Milwaukee was also called the city of steeples.
Steeples?
Steeples?
That's interesting, because when I come across the bridge now coming down 43 or coming down the expressway, that's one of the things I'd look forward to try to count. And I think I got up to 17 in my driving, 17 steeples, which is pretty, I think it's pretty darn nice to see all those church steeples. And maybe some of them are vacant churches, I know, but nice looking city. It's got a lot to offer.
And during the Depression, you said that you would wear your nicest clothes to church. What church did you belong to?
Well, it's called Bayview Bethel Evangelical, and now today it's a Mexican church. So it's been changed over. Protestant church, as I said the other night.
Is there anything that you would like to add or anything that you would like to say that we forgot about? Any other significant events?
Well, I enjoyed living in Milwaukee. I'd endorse anybody that's considering living here to give it a good shot. Because it's a good city. You can find anything you want here. Good schools, good people. I see we're not rated that well, but it's a nice community, nice people.
What was it like? Did anyone, let's say someone from Chicago, would they ever come in and compare Chicago to Milwaukee, or would you ever see any of that, or not really?
Not to my knowledge. No. That's about all I got here.